Hi guys, welcome to Body Conquest. Today I'm going to talk to you about a couple of little subjects that are joined together. We're going to talk about PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and how we can work towards improving some of the situations that we or you girls tend to suffer when you have polycystic ovarian syndrome. Now, polycystic ovarian syndrome, for those that don't know, is a fairly common issue. Probably about 1 in 3 girls will tend to have it, where cysts start to form on the ovaries. What happens after this starts to happen, and usually happens fairly early in teenage years through the sexual development, is that hormones start to go a little bit skew-if. Okay, so things start to happen such as testosterone rises up higher than the normal production in girls. Estrogen starts to get a little bit up and down all the time, and it loses control of that. And probably one of the biggest issues for girls with PCOS is that they become insulin resistant. Now, insulin resistance is a major issue. If you have a look at, like, from someone who has a very healthy carbohydrate metabolism compared to up the other end of the scale, we've got people who have syndrome X, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes and all that sort of stuff. That's where you get the extreme cases of insulin resistance. Our body is not utilizing insulin very well, and therefore it's not disposing of carbohydrates. It's not utilizing them to transport the glucose into the muscle cells where it's needed. So with people with PCOS, they are also in that category. They have a high level of insulin resistance and their body is not utilizing carbohydrates very well. So it becomes quite difficult for people with PCOS to lose weight or to lose body fat. And what also really tends to happen is when girls with PCOS do lose weight, it's actually very, very slowly because of that high level of testosterone. Girls who are training in the gym will tend to muscle up a little bit more or a little bit faster than the average girls. So you can't focus on scale weight. It's probably one of the biggest things I always tell people with PCOS, because that scale weight is not going to be a great indicator of the progress that you are making. Now, when we have a look at insulin resistance, there are several different ways that we can reduce insulin resistance. There is obviously the acute way of changing it, which is the very, very quickly. Training does that, okay? Especially intense training sessions. So things like your intense cardio exercise like ice or high intensity interval training and things like that will tend to open up the metabolism and increase the body's ability to utilize insulin. Also, weight training. Weight training is probably the best choice for anyone who is trying to improve their insulin resistance, and therefore it's really important for those girls with PCOS because it's going to wake up the metabolism. It's creating a high metabolic requirement because of all the muscles that are being used and the nervous system being used. And so that creates that floodgate where the body is saying, feed me the carbohydrates. So we get to dispose of those carbohydrates. And so you create that acute sensitivity. Now, on the more chronic scale of long-term improvement of our insulin sensitivity, nutritional changes are the best obviously choice, because if we are eating poorly and constantly pumping high glycemic carbohydrates into our body, and then we get in those highs and lows with the insulin being fed in with those carbohydrates, that in itself is going to create insulin resistance. So what we need to do is fuel our body with low glycemic carbohydrates on a constant scale so that our insulin is not creating those up and down effects, the peaks and crashes. We're creating a nice steady stream. So fibrous foods and proteins are really important for girls with PCOS because that's going to help regulate insulin. It's also going to allow for glucagon to rise up, glucagon being the opposing hormone to insulin, and allows for that access to energy stores. Now, when we're looking for quick little tips on how to improve things from a supplemental scale, because people always want to know what the magic pill is, and quite often what doctors will do is they will prescribe something like metformin, or also known as Diabex, which what it does is it bumps up your insulin levels. Now that's actually a little bit counterintuitive, because by bumping it up, you're just going to make yourself more resistant in the long term. It's not helping you out. What we need to do is increase the sensitivity to the insulin. One of the best supplements that I have discovered over the years has been something called alpha lipoic acid. Now, alpha lipoic acid is technically a lipid, okay, but it's a lipid that works as an antioxidant, and it's a very, very strong antioxidant. In fact, quite often when you take it, you'll notice that your pee smells a little bit funny, like you've just eaten a bunch of asparagus, and that's its antioxidant capabilities, flushing ammonia out of your muscles. Also, on top of its antioxidant capabilities, one of the major roles of alpha lipoic acid is that it works as an insulin mimetic. Now, what that means is it actually it works in the body kind of like how insulin does. It mimics insulin. And by doing that, it's going to help with transporting carbohydrates into the muscle cells to be used as glycogen, thus reducing our blood glucose levels, increasing our blood glycogen levels, and also increasing our insulin sensitivity. The longer we take this, the better it becomes. So all those insulin receptors that have shut down through the insulin resistance all of a sudden wake back up, and we become this little powerhouse that's utilizing those energies that we're taking in from our foods and also from our fat stores. So it will actually help to improve your fat loss results. So probably the best thing that you can do for yourself if you are a sufferer of PCOS is obviously improve your nutrition. Go out and start doing some exercise, particularly intense training sessions several times a week, and find yourself a really good quality alpha lipoic acid. Generally, I would suggest about a 300 milligram dose twice a day would be perfect. If you have any further questions, I'd obviously suggest contacting Ingrid or myself at Body Conquest on the website www.bodyconquest.com.au, or else you can always contact Ingrid on FIO, let's figure it out, on Facebook. Make sure that you subscribe to our videos. There's always more popping up throughout the weeks, and make sure that you click like and comment and recommend your friends onto our site. Catch you later.